All right, so today's topic is Google Analytics, and we're going to be focusing on three aspects of Google Analytics. How do you set it up initially and use the out-of-the-box features that comes with it? How do you add event tracking to your Google Analytics? And how do you use the core reporting API? So what is web analytics? So first thing it gives you information on who your visitors are. So frequency of visitors, and that can be from any hierarchy. So it can be from yearly, monthly, weekly, daily, down to the minute. How does your users locate the website? So one way is they can do a Google search and then get the website there. They can do direct links, links that you provide them. And then there's also reference links. So another website might reference your website and they might visit it through there. So it tracks all that. And where are users coming from? So this is really interesting because one, it tells you what country, what city. It also tells you what service provider they're coming from. Is it AT&T, Verizon, Comcast, Xfinity? So it gives you good options there. And then time and date of the user visits. It also tells you what the users are doing. So duration of visit. So how long did they visit your website overall? But including that, it adds how long did they visit each page within that website. And there's also a bounce rate. And what the bounce rate is, if a user comes and lands on your home page, and then doesn't click on anything, and then leaves your page, your bounce rate is going to increase. So typically you want a lower bounce rate. That means users are going to your website, and then they're actually doing something. Right? So if they're doing a Google search, and yours comes up third, and they go to your website, and then they leave, you weren't providing them the information that they needed, right? So there's some disconnect there. And time spent on each web page, and the actions of the users of each web page. So what links were they clicking, what videos were they watching, and things like that. Okay, so types of web analytics. So this is the precursor to what we have right now, and this is server log based tracking, and this was the responsibility of the web admin or whoever was tracking their website. So they had to go into their own server and use the built-in logging to get all this web analytics for their website. And the second one, which is what Google Analytics uses, is paged view tracking. And what this does is it relies on a centralized servers. And so there's no modification to your own server that you have to do. What you do is you add a JavaScript to your pages. Typically you add it to a master page, since that page is going to be included in every other page that the user is going to be visiting. And you don't have to manage your own logs. So really big benefit from page view based tracking over server log. I don't think anybody's using this at all anymore. So how does Google Analytics work? Really? So I'm at the browser right here. I'll make a HTTP request, right? I'll get the page back, and my page will load right here. In there, I have a JavaScript file called GA, Google Analytics, and it'll go to the Google Analytics server. It'll bring back the JavaScript file. It'll load it into my page, and then from that point, it'll start collecting user data. And the way it does that is it generates cookies, and based on those cookies, it'll send information back to the Google Analytics server. And what I'm not showing here is the way that they track unique visitors with returning visitors is they have an image that they actually embed within the cookie, and that's how they track unique visitors within each website. So once the information gets to the Google Analytics server, the database gets updated, and then from there you can go to your Google Analytics homepage and then view the data through there. This is pretty fast, actually. So if I were to go right now into my site and then open up Google Web Analytics, it would actually show the counter, live counter, and it's pretty fast. The only thing that tends to lag a little bit, which is not much, I mean, considering what it's doing, is the event tracking, and that takes about 5-10 minutes to update, which in the scheme of things is really fast. Any questions about this diagram? Yeah. Yeah, it would. Yeah, it would. Yeah. That's true. The question was, if you have cookies disabled, would it affect the number of users that shows up on your report in your web analytics? And the answer is yes. It would affect the number of visitors. It would give you an inaccurate count. And you would. There's another question that if you have JavaScript disabled, then yes, that would also affect it. But most browsers have JavaScript enabled, and that's not really an issue. But yeah, it wouldn't track that information either. Any other questions? All right. So how do you enable Google Analytics? One, you need a Google account, and then you go through 3 or 4 steps, really simple steps, and at the end you'll get this Google Analytics tracking snippet. And what this does, it gives you the out-of-the-box features with Google Analytics, and they suggest that you insert it into every page that you want to track. So you don't have to track your entire site. You can just track certain pages you want. But if you're tracking the entire site, you just put it in the master page, because it's going to get loaded for every page that gets loaded anyway. So.
Do they suggest that you should put it in the top of the document or the bottom? Some places say they want it at the bottom because they want a full page load, and some places say they want it at the top because they want unique activity that shows up on the page. Do they have any guidance on that?
That's a good question. The question was, do Google Analytics suggest where the JavaScript should be embedded? Top of the page or the bottom of the page? And they do suggest that you insert it at the bottom of the page is fine, because it depends. The bottom of the page for out-of-the-box features is fine. You want to improve your load times. So putting it at the bottom of the page is going to allow you to allow the page to load first, and then do whatever background process is doing. If you're doing something where you're doing event tracking where you need you're adding load time or something like that, then you'd want to have Google Analytics at the top of the page, specific to your. I guess it's specific to your needs. If you're using for the basic needs, basic out of the box, I would suggest putting it at the bottom of the page. It increase your page speed. If you're doing something particular that you need something to do event tracking before the page loads, then put it at the top of the page. All right, let's do a interface demo. Alright, so logged into Google Analytics, and this is your home page. If you have multiple sites, they'll show up here. I only have one site. Click on that, and you get quite a few options out of the box here. We'll try to cover as many as we can, but let's first do the audience overview. And so from this first page, what you get is pretty much what everybody's going to want to know: number of visits of your site. You know, how well is your site doing? And so you can see here, you can change the date. So I can filter it based on, you know, I want it from January 12th all the way to February 9th. That's good for me. As you look at the graph, you can see there were 0 visits on January 13th, but there were 10 visits on January 15th, right? You can also, let's say, you know why there were 0 visits here for January 24th. So you can click on that here. There you go. Servers were down. Save. And so you have your little notes here that you can add. They'll tell you why certain activities were happening at certain dates. You can star them, and then you can filter them out based on your starred notes. Yeah. Yeah. Good point. The point was you can use this compare checkbox to actually compare different timelines to each other. So maybe you added certain features here that you removed here, and you want to know what effect it had. So that's pretty good to see. Like I said, you can drill it down by hourly. So, you know, 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 0 visits, but, you know, right at 9 there were 2 visits, and nope, right at 8 o'clock there were 8 visits. So there's a spike there. You know, you do it weekly, monthly. There's also the difference between visits and unique visits. So visits are just how many times was a website hit, whether you were a unique visitor or a returning visitor. A unique visitor is just as it says, unique. The page views is how many pages were actually viewed during that time. So you can have a lot of visits, not many page views. That might be something wrong there. A bounce rate is 2.0%. I think the industry standard is to have it below 5%. Is typically what you want to have it. And then you have your average visit duration, page visits. What I like here is that you go down to the demographics and you can actually see the languages that were actually accessing your website. So 98 visits accessed it during using the English language, but then there's 1 that was actually using Arabic. So it's a good way to see what type of languages you want to support for your website. Right? You can drill it down to country, territory, all the way down to city. So typically it looks like my user base is somewhere in the south, you know, Mobile, southeast, south region. You can also look at the browser. So 50% visits were from Chrome, and 3 from Safari. So I'm not really caring about Safari. Looks like Chrome and Internet Explorer are the ones I want to focus. Right? I don't want to put too much development time on certain features that only include in Safari or something like that. It just tells you, it just gives you a more detailed page visits and bounce rate and stuff like that for browser. Operating system, this is really neat too. 94 visits were from Windows, and then there's 3 from iOS and 2 from Android, so not much mobile activity there. um, service providers, and then there's operating systems. So really good assortment of information there. Let's see what else. Yeah, so this is another view under the mobile tab, the overview. Majority of my visits were from desktop. There was 3 that used the tablet to view my website, and there's 2 that used the mobile phone. So, okay, let's go to, so these acquisition, so overall overview, this is what I was saying about direct visits, referral visits, and organic search. So 73% were direct visits, so not many people referring or organic search, so I'd want this to be a little bit higher than my direct visit, right? Same view here, just additional information. Some of these require that you add the snippet that we were looking at before this, adding to your this JavaScript snippet. To include some of these additional features, you'd have to append to this JavaScript snippet for them to be enabled. But out of the box, it's pretty good. Behavior. Actually, there's one that I want to show, and this is experiments. So I can create an experiment here. So let's say I have this new page that I'm not sure if people are going to like. So I can say / new page, right? Then I can do start experiment. Okay. So I can set matrix here, but the interesting thing is you can set percentage of traffic to the experiment. So if I say 25% of my users are going to see that new page only, and then I can, instead of having it deploy to all my users, and that's pretty cool because you can see whether or not that's a page that you want to actually keep or not. Yeah.
So say you set up one of these experiments and your page is for buying a video, and I visit your site and I get the new page the first time I visit. In subsequent visits, am I going to get that same new site, or is there a chance that I'll get the old one?
There's a chance you might get the old one. Yeah. People that get the experiment page are able to see the experiment page and all other pages.
Oh, okay.
So
They can flip back.
they can flip back. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
What do you mean? Yeah, it's a random process. Yeah, it's a random redirect process. So so 25%. If you happen to be one of those 25%, it'll just randomly select you as one of those 25% people that's going to use you as the experiment. And you can also set the minimum time that the experimentation will run. So if you want it a week, 3 days. If you want faster results, you're going to want a higher percentage. But yeah, and then there's a confidence to whether or not threshold of what you consider a successful new page and that you want to keep it.
So for that, is that, if I visit your site and I get the new test page and I don't like it, and I say, give me the old page, that's a vote of, that's a down vote, right?
Yeah,
Okay, but if I use the new page, that's what I say.
doesn't include. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's one more. There you go, site speed. Oops, speed suggestions. Well, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Okay. Let's go to site speed and overview. So what this does is the same as the number of visits, but you can filter it based on average page download time, reflection time, server connection time, all these nice things. We'll even give it to you down to the browser. So Chrome was 2.21 second, site average, right? And then the neat thing is you also have speed suggestions. So these are all the pages that were visited by my site, right? Let's go to the home page. And you see here this says page speed suggestions 5 total. So what Google Analytics is doing is it's analyzing that particular page right now. And I have a pretty good score, 86 out of 100. But there's some suggestions and things that I could fix, right? So eliminate render blocking, JavaScript, and CSS and above the full content, right? So if I have multiple JavaScript files that I'm pulling in from an outside source, and let's say they're really small JavaScript files, I might want to consider putting them just in block within the page itself, right? Eliminate that loading time that that the page has to do, and this is what it's suggesting, right? But also, let's say you don't have no idea what render blocking JavaScript and CSS is. They also give you a page that'll actually tell you exactly what they mean.
All that information that you were seeing earlier about visits and everything, was that the whole page or particular page or in general?
That was for the entire site. So if you land on the home page and then you leave, that's a visit. But you also have page views, what we looked at, and page views are different from visits. So you land on the page, that's a visit. But your page views might be really small, right? Because a lot of people which indicates your bounce rate is high. People are coming to your site, but they're leaving also. If they're coming to your site and then they're going to course view, they're going to course material, they're going to all these other pages, then your page views are going to be high, right? You're going to have, every time you look at a page, that's 1 count for the page view, right? And every time that somebody clicks on another link within your site, your bounce rate reduces, goes down.
If I have like a bookmark set to a tutorial page on the site, and if I just use the bookmark every time to visit the site, does that still count as a visit?
That counts as a visit and 1 page view.
Can you show, I want to get back to this, because I want to look at overhead. Can you show like the user flow that I had to do that? And then the side of that and the user flow?
Oh. This one?
No, one more behavior flow.
Okay.
I'll show you like one so like most people land on the home page and then they jump over to they redirect, looks like they've got a redirect to the home page. But then from there they'll go course over into confidence to you can kind of see what the average path people are taking. You can also find out somebody's bookmark, like you were saying, like somebody's bookmark course 7. They're jumping straight to course 7 and then go into course 14.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
But can you go back and look at the suggestions, like what kind of suggestions do they do for mobile applications? Like it looked like you had two tabs, like desktop suggestions and
Yeah. So going back here, let's say using the home page again.
I don't want to do that.
No, I really did want to show that. Yeah. Yeah, it's the mobile is yeah, it's different from the desktop, and that so user experience. This is really so your viewport. Some of these elements may not be exactly appropriately fitted for the mobile version, so they'll give you suggestions there. But pretty much the same suggestions I would be in the desktop would most likely be here as well. So like you can see render block in JavaScript, leverage browser caching. And it's really cool to actually give you a snippet of a preview of what your site actually looks on the mobile version compared to the desktop version. So, any questions there? Yeah, it's really, really powerful. I know for us, internally, this alone would probably benefit us a lot.
Now, is Google Analytics, is that free, or is that like a paid, like how do you subscribe? And just copy that and paste that JavaScript in there and you're good to go, or?
Yep, completely free. Create your Google account, which most people probably already have. And once you're through, they'll actually give you right here. There's this tracking code. Just come right here, copy, paste, and give it about. They say about a day, but usually it'll take 1 to 2 hours to actually showing data coming through. But yeah, that's it. Google account and going through the 2 or 3 steps to actually set it up. That's about it.
And this means more to track the, say, third-party sites, like for instance, our Facebook page. We don't really only put it in the page, right? And this we don't track that.
I would say no, because you would have to somehow include the JavaScript into your Facebook page. Yeah, the only way this is working is if you have that tracking code. And this tracking code has to load with every page, otherwise it's not going to track it. You can't load it in your home page and then expect it to track every other page. There's one more thing, and we'll go to the event tracking. Actually, 2 more things. There's so much here. Oh yeah, I think I showed you the real time. But you also have dashboards. So here are probably 3 dashboards that I typically want to see. I want to see where my visits are coming from in the world. Typically they're mostly coming from the United States, and I want to see new visits based on retained audience, and I want to see the country, right? But you can also come here and then just add to dashboard. And this button is pretty much throughout every other tab that you can see at the dashboard. So it's pretty easy to add that. Another feature is that you can email yourself this the report, or you can export it any file format that you want.
There's some of that other options, really like a lot of that, not only browsers, you can do like OLED, resolution, sorry, they're available. What else is there in that cost?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it looks like if you want to find out how many people are using no resolution.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and like you were saying, JavaScript support, which what users actually had JavaScript supported. So 94 visitors, 94% had JavaScript support, and 5 didn't. So.
So it's actually tracking the ones that do not even have it.
Oh, JavaScript.
That's Java, that's not Java.
If I think if they didn't have JavaScript, you wouldn't even get a
Yeah. All right. Any questions or anything that anybody wants to see on the reporting Google Analytics?
Can you
Yeah.
go down like what did you say? Organic search versus versus direct versus links. Can you drill down into those and see exactly like I know that this is the Tech Tree Academy.
Yeah.
Is the website. I look for could you tell that I Google searched for Academy and then clicked on your thing versus if
It'll
Christian search for tech and clicked on your.
It will tell you the keywords they're used in Google, and it'll give you the URL sites of anybody that referred you referred users to your site as well. And it'll actually, yeah, you can just drill down. Forgot where it was, but yeah, you can do that. Definitely. Any other questions? Well, if you're not satisfied with what Google Analytics gives you, you can also add event tracking for yourself. And it records user interactions with website analysts, but you can record elements that aren't being tracked by Google. So let's say they watching a video and they skip the video all the way to the end. You can track that. You can track down to that granularity. And it's available through the Google Analytics tracking code. Like I told you, the snippet that they give you is for the out-of-the-box features. You would just add a little bit more JavaScript to that snippet, and that would enable you to have that event tracking. It's highly flexible. Like I said, you can pretty much track anything that you want. And we'll see here that you can attach it to pretty much any event. So loading loading a website down to clicks, down to how many seconds somebody watched the video. So it's pretty powerful. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of crazy that you can track out of that like this.
Yeah.
Free. It's not like it's possible.
Somewhat related to this is if you're ever buying an airline ticket or hotel ticket or anything, hotel reservations or anything like that, they'll actually know whether or not you visited their site before, and that you've looked at that hotel deal or whatever, and that you've come back, and they'll actually increase the price because of that. So sometimes if you'll clear your browser cache and you go back, the price will actually be cheaper. So they some tricky.
Few years back, like probably last year sometime, because one of the travel sites was even higher prices if you're using a Mac, so they claimed that you could afford a Mac if you travel more money.
Yeah.
And I remember that was a big deal when people figured that out. And, if people were loaded up on an iPhone, because you're using Safari on the Mac or iOS, and they were charging more.
Yeah.
So I guess Android wins.
Poor man's IO. So practical applications, Flash-driven elements, embedded Ajax page elements. I don't think there's any page gadgets anymore, but file downloads and load times for data. I think load times for data would probably be the more useful. It is very flexible, so you have to take into consideration that you will want to have all your elements that you want to track in advance. Because as we'll see right now, you can add any name that you want to the event tracking. So down to from the category to the event, to any notes that you want to add for each event that you're tracking, along with a numeric value. The numeric value is up to you. You determine if a click on your course's website is worth 50 points as opposed to registration, which is worth 80 points. And there's some algorithms that you can use, but it's all up to you what you want to use. And adopt a consistent and clear naming convention. Like I said, you can name it whatever you want, so you want to be sure to once your website gets a lot of traffic, it's going to be hard to separate any events that you haven't been consistently naming. And this is the code that you would add. So you would just copy and paste this and add it to your existing Google Analytics code snippet, and it would start working. There's one additional thing that you actually have to do. So this is what you would add to your master page, but then this is a method that you would add to track certain events. So let's say I'm tracking user registration. I would by category as users, the event is registration, and giving myself a note saying user clicked on registration link, and I'm giving it arbitrary 100 value.
So Google takes the maintaining it, instead of just array events.
Yeah.
Instead of something to array and making it a slave, you just put it back in.
Yeah.
So it gets to it.
And we'll actually see it right here. So you go down to behavior, events, and you can see top events. And then you can see here I have registration, competency, and course listing. I can drill down. So this is my category, course listing. And then the event action was somebody clicked on the TFS training. So somebody went to the course listing and they specifically wanted to view TFS training. And my note to myself saying, event label saying, user viewed the TFS training courses, any additional information that you want to give. And then the event value, which I arbitrarily gave 100, and then the average. Any questions on event tracking? Pretty powerful supplement to the out-of-the-box features that you get with Google Analytics.
One click and then you go back.
No, this is anything. The on-click is just because that's what I was tracking, but you can Yeah, I mean, this is just JavaScript, so anywhere that you can run JavaScript and you want to add that, then it'll record it.
You should also use the errors and all these stuff too, like when they run into a problem. You make a call to the data, what fails, and you want, what the condition was.
Yeah, I mean, possibilities here are pretty, I mean, limitless. I mean, you can record anything that you want to record just with, 3 properties. So, the last thing we're going to talk about is the core reporting API. And if you're really not satisfied with the Google Analytics page that they have, it's pretty cool to use this. You can build custom dashboards, save time automating complex reporting tasks. And so what this really does is it allows you to query data that's in Google Analytics. So any data here, I can query it myself from within my site, within another site. If I have, like, let's say an admin site or something like that, I can query any data that you see here through code and display it into any reports, even into the web page itself. So keep that in mind as we're talking about core reporting API. And it doesn't support viewing account profile information, so you are limited to events that happen to your site, but you can't query user profiles and user information, stuff like that. So how do you get the core reporting API working? First, you need to authenticate and authorize the user, right? So there's two authentications that you have to go through. First, you have to enable the site to actually use the core reporting API, right? So you have the Google developers site. You have to go in there and actually add. So let's say I have www.mysiteadmin.com. I actually have to go log into the Google Developer API page and actually add that site and give it access to access my data through Google Analytics. And then you also have to have a user that will log in, and he'll have to have access to Google Analytics as well. So you create a Google Analytics service object, and then you create a query, and we'll see the query reporting, core reporting in a little bit. But all this does is calls a function within ga.js, and then that calls in an AJAX request and specifies a callback, and then the callback you'll just handle a response. So when the callback happens, you'll handle the callback will be handling the response, and then you'll output the response based on the callback that happens. Any questions on the conceptual overview? I'm going really high overview because there's quite a few things that you actually have to do between authorizing and creating the analytics service object and then querying the core reporting API. But that's the basics. And here's where the code that I'm actually using to query the core reporting API. We'll not actually view it here, but you can go through. So this code is the same thing we were seeing below. And there's a lot more than what's here, but this is where I was telling you about the Google Analytics API get function. And what you're passing in here is the profile ID. Profile ID is what matches to my Google Analytics. And then I want to say I'm picking the start date and then end date, and then the metric is I want the visits. So I want number of visits from this date to this date. I'll hit the execute, and then it's going to call Ajax, and then this is the callback that gets called. And then within this function, I'm going to handle the results however I want to do it. If I want to put it into a report, if I want to display it to users, if I want to do whatever I need to do. I'm adding another one here that says I want to get real-time data. And so I'm passing the same profile ID, but this time the metric is I want active users. And then the same thing, execute, and then handle the callback function. So let's see how that works. Actually, to get the total visits. So here, let's just make sure that I have live. Okay, so one user is currently active. So I'm going to authorize okay, it saved my password because I was already logged in to Google Analytics, but in the beginning of the course you saw me log in with the same Google account. That's the same way here. When I do authorize user, it'll give me the prompt for the Google account. I'll hit in my username and password and then I'll get authorized. And then when I do get visits, this is where I'm calling this code right here. So you can see the profile name is TechTree Site Data, and then there's total of 112 visitors since these 2 dates, and there's currently 1 live visitor. Yep, 2. Did you just go to your yeah, so like I said, it's really quick. It picks up data really quickly, and it's telling me half of my users on desktop and half on mobile. So they're on the mobile, and it's really neat. Does actually tell you per minute page views. So right now, 2 minutes is the average. So this is just the tip of the iceberg for recording the core reporting API. This actually, the results that it actually returns is an array. So the amount of data that you can display or use or manipulate as you really want is pretty powerful. Any questions on the Google Analytics core reporting API? Well, that's all I had for Google Analytics. Hopefully you guys liked it.